Do I make you horny, baby?
Oh my god.
Nope, I can't do it. No way, I can't. I just can't do it. I refuse to even sink that low for a joke at the beginning of this show. So, forget it. We're talking 1968 horror on this episode of Attack of the Killer Podcast.
Attention, planet Earth and beyond. Stay tuned for Attack of the Killer Podcast. 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 Yay.
Peace, love, dope. I'm Insane Mike, and I'm your groovy host here at Attack of the Killer Podcast. This is the psychedelic episode 191, and we are talking about horror movies from 1968 in this episode. If you have not listened to the show before, that's a huge bummer, man. We are a far-out podcast where a bunch of hippies get together and chill as we talk about horror movies within a certain topic. So don't have a cow, man, as there may be spoilers. Now, Attack of the Killer Podcast is part of a tranquil community of other peace and loving podcasters on the Prescribed Films Podcast Network. The Prescribed Films Podcast Network is a far-out groovy network full of funky and awesome shows. So check it out, man. Go to thepfpn.com to listen to all the shows. That is thepfpn.com. At this time, I would like to mention our sponsor, Shudder. Shudder is a gnarly streaming service for us horror fans. Like $4.99 a month, man, or $49.99 a year. Trust me, it's far out. Bitchin' classic horror movies, groovy original content, series, and so much more. You can get a hit on us from Attack of the Killer Podcast if you just type in the promo code AOTKP, and you'll get a full month for free, man. Far out! Now, you too can join our circle of love by joining our Patreon. If you go to Patreon and check out our different tiers, you can pick one that best suits you and get all kinds of awesome, groovy, extra content, such as bonus episodes, Insane Mike's 1 Minute Top 10 list, bonus videos, and so much more. So if you go to patreon.com, check us out at AOTKP, and become an attacker today. So that's enough of that nonsense. It's time to introduce you to the podcast crew. A hippie told him to hang loose, and ever since then he stopped wearing underwear. Andy Wassum, everybody.
Hi. How's it going? Just hopping on this magic bus here.
He tried to save the hippie from drowning in the ocean, but he was too far out, man. Tad Good, everyone.
Oh well, he says.
He thought free love meant he didn't have to pay for it anymore. Jason Bollinger.
Hey, it's worth the shot. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in.
And now, our very special guest from In the Mic of Madness, Triple B Theater, and SOBs who love SOV, and just so happens to be one of those female people I've heard so much about, the one and only Becca Rinehart.
That's right. I don't wear a bra, and I'm rocking my bell bottoms.
Nice.
Groovy.
Yeah, groovy. Very groovy.
So, Becca, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your shows? You guys are pretty busy over there.
Yeah. So the main reason I'm on here is because I am the half of In the Mic of Madness. So we are a podcast on the PFPN. But I also have a YouTube channel called Triple B Theater that I do with Jason Crow. And we just act like idiots. We sit in the hot tub, drink beer, and talk about horror movies. And then we have a spin-off of In the Mic of Madness now, the SOBs who love SOVs. So I like to say we are like the different strokes to the In the Mic of Madness's Facts of Life. Or I guess it's vice versa. So, so Slade Shepherd and I love shot on video stuff. And so we're only a couple episodes in, but we've got some good stuff coming up.
Yes, I'm loving the show because I too am a huge fan of stuff shot on movies that are shot on video.
So I'll give you a couple little teasers here then. So we are going to be doing an interview with Tim Ritter, and hopefully we're going to be doing it on set on one of the shorts that he's working on so that we can get killed by him and then do the interview in makeup.
Awesome.
Oh, very cool.
Oh yeah, he
Cool.
lives in Lexington, Kentucky, which isn't too far from where Jason Crow lives, so he invited us to his farm. It's somebody's farm, apparently. So if I don't show back up, it's because Tim Ritter killed me.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're not making it off that place.
Do you have like a particular favorite shot on video movie, or maybe a particular favorite film director of shot on video nonsense?
This was one of those things where I was the kind of kid who had lived in a very small town. And we just happened to have a video store where the guy was very into horror, and I would rent a lot of movies, and it got to the point where I was renting the bottom of the barrel. Like, I'd seen everything. So then I started renting these movies that were just, like, I mean, really, like, not terrible, but by most standards would be terrible. And I haven't seen a lot of these movies in, 20, 30 years. So I'm revisiting a lot of them. But as I've kind of gone back through to sort of figure out what we want to watch and what we want to do, I think the one that just really stands out to me is Video Violence 2.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
It is crazy. I mean, Video Violence 1 as well, but I mean, I just remember watching Video Violence 2 and I almost like had PTSD the first time I rewatched that. I was like, oh my God, like how many times did I watch this and why did I watch this? But I love it, so.
Yeah, and they always had the coolest box covers too, which was
Yes.
once you get to that point where you're renting so much of this stuff, you kind of realize the cooler the box cover may not necessarily mean the cooler the movie, but
it still never stopped me. But I would say my
same
favorite
here.
director in general, I love his stuff, but only because he's also a really good friend, and that's Todd Sheets. So he is kind of the granddaddy of all SOV, so he's an awesome guy as well, so.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Yes. I can't wait for more episodes. I just got done recently listening to the 555 episode.
That was a doozy.
Yeah, it was great.
I actually loved it. That is the only one of the ones we've talked about doing that I hadn't seen before.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
All
well,
right.
thanks for being on our show.
Thanks for being on the show. This is awesome.
No problem. Thanks
Apologies
for picking,
in advance.
What?
Yeah, I was going to say thanks for picking 3 wonderful films, but
Don't lie.
Yeah.
That's Mike's ass.
2 out of 3 were good to me. So
Interesting. All right.
yeah, which ones, ladies and gentlemen?
Exactly. We'll only get there in a couple hours from now
Cut.
because first we're going to turn it over to Tad for his segment.
All right, let's just go right into what we watched, where we talk about what we've watched since the last time we recorded. Let's start with Jason and just get it over with.
Yeah, you should. I saw Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Anyone see that yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did.
Yep.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know why there's
thought it-
hate out there, but
There's hate out there?
I thought it was pretty solid. There
Yeah.
were some genuine poopy pants moments.
yeah, for
It
sure.
looks really cool. It looks really cool. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I just generally liked how it was structured. I mean, it wasn't really like bookended like you see like typical anthology films, because I thought that's what it was going to be. It was basically it was stories being told within an actual just regular story. You know, it's not like Tales from the Dark Side where the kid opens the book and then you just, you cut to, straight to the story.
It was very much like Tales from, like, the old Tales from the Crypt, like the 72 one, where it's like the people who were in the stories were actually the people who were in the wraparound. Like, it was a little more like that kind of hybrid, I felt.
Yeah.
I thought it was inventive. I liked it. I grew up on those books, so I
still have
geeking
mine.
out.
Yeah.
I read all of them before I went to go see the movie, so
Well, that's cool because
research.
I was the opposite. I had zero reference. I read not one word of them books. I didn't even know about them. I didn't have any reference at all, so I just
Okay,
enjoyed the movie.
can I ask you a question then?
Yeah.
Okay, because I did 2 podcasts. The weekend this came out, I did my podcast, and then I also did Fresh Cuts with some of the guys from Horophilia. And we all had grown up reading the books, or at least had some kind of reference to them. And I said, I want to know, if somebody who hasn't ever read the books, did you find the creature design, like especially of like the kind of marshmallowy lady in the hallway, did you find that like cheesy, or did you find that frightening?
Creepy as fuck.
All right, cool. Because I didn't know if I didn't know if somebody would look at that like from a modern perspective and be
Right.
like, but really, I mean, that was really like she jumped off the page, and that used to be so frightening as a kid. That character in particular.
Yeah, that segment scared the
I could
hell
tell
out of
that-
me.
I thought that segment had the most to do with Del Toro, if you ask me. That seemed more, like he had more of his hands in that.
Probably.
Because, I mean, it just looks like kind of like one of his designs to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah.
Next, trying to. I've just been hearing about this movie a lot lately, and I needed to watch it to fill out my diploma, so Mike would leave me alone. But I finally watched Blowout.
damn time.
And that was fucking
Yeah.
awesome. I loved it. It was so good.
John Lithgow.
Not just
Freaking John Lithgow.
And I mean, I connected to it on lots of levels, but like, I'm an audio guy.
Yeah.
So it's so cool to see a movie about audio guys.
audio guy, yeah.
It never happens. We don't get movies. So it was so awesome to have a movie. And like,
Representation.
I know. And I'm like not only watching it, but like looking at the gear. And when he's in the studio, I'm like, oh, it's that machine. Oh, it's that microphone. Oh, but
So-
it also made sense to me on a technical, professional level too. So
yeah.
it was great.
And so, like, were you really into that scene then when he's recording the Foley noises of like the owl and all that
Oh
stuff?
fuck yeah!
and
When
how
he's
it's
moving the
jumping from
microphone
channel to
around.
channel. Yeah.
Yep, Like that's my life on set half the time is boom guy and recording sound, and so I loved it.
I go through
And it was good.
I go through different levels with my love of De Palma, and I think I'm getting to the point where that movie may take the number 1 spot.
It could. It really could. I agree completely. And then I just rewatched Land of the Dead. It was on, so I just watched it again.
Nice.
That was still really great. I watched a bunch of not horror, so maybe I shouldn't talk about it. Widows, I finally watched that. The Mule, those were both on HBO. Then I went into like an A24 stretch I couldn't get out of. I finally watched Good Time
Fuck yeah.
because I wanted,
Jimmy Walker?
Nope. Because Robert Pattinson, got me really excited with The Lighthouse, and then I'm hearing everyone's like, fuck the Twilight stuff, this dude's really good. And I'm like, I believe that he is. And so, and they're like, well, then watch Good Time, and you'll know. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, he's so good in that.
Yeah, you're on the hype train now, aren't you?
Totally. And then, so speaking with keeping with the white trash A24 theme, then I watched the Florida Project. So
Nice,
fucking
that's
good.
a sad one.
Oh man, so sad, but so good. Then Free Fire, holy shit, that was fucking awesome. You would love it because it's kind of one location. It's like a dozen characters in a shootout in one
nice.
room. It's really neat.
Sweet.
Ocean's 8, finally watched that. Anyway, and then I went and saw Ready or Not. Holy shit, that was good.
Yes.
So
Fine.
good. Right?
Fucking rich people.
Okay, everyone loved it. Deal.
Yeah. I've not heard one person say anything bad about it.
Nope.
Good.
And then a couple more. Oh yeah, I forgot this A24 one, horror one, The Hole in the Ground. I skipped over it like 1,000 times, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna push the button because it seemed really generic, but it turned out to be pretty cool. The Hole in the Ground. I think it's on Netflix. I think it's definitely on Prime, but it's There's a hole in the ground. Some shit gets weird. A mom loses her kid. Maybe it's not the same kid that comes back.
Oh.
And it's but it's shot super well. It's the cinematography's great, and it really leads to its storytelling.
Of course, it's an A24 movie. You
Right.
just described every
Yeah,
A24
no, I know.
movie. Some
that's-
weird shit happens and it's shot beautifully. Yep, that's an A24
Yeah.
movie.
and that's why I regret not pushing play sooner. So
Yeah.
it's great.
And then it's either 1 star or 9 stars for the most part.
Yep. And then I'm also super excited. We have a Roku here at the house, and if you have a Roku, there's like a generic The Roku app, and on there there's like free movies and TV shows and stuff. And it was on there for a while, and then it was gone, but now it's back. And I watched episode 1, Incident on and Off a Mountain Road of the Masters of Horror.
Nice.
Master Horror's
Oh,
back
the
on
Don
there.
Coscarelli one. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good one.
And
That's
goddamn.
a lot of fun.
So that was my first, and I haven't seen any of the Masters of Horror yet.
What?
I know, right? Because I'm
Watch-
a terrible person. But
Watch Edition.
I will. They're all on there. I'm just gonna go in a row and watch them all.
Cool.
I'm really excited about it.
There's a lot from season 2 that I still have not seen. Probably most from season 2, but man, yeah, Incident on and Off a Mountain Road. That's probably one of
was
my
really
favorites. Between that and Jennifer, those are my top 2.
Nice.
What's the one?
Cigarette Burns.
Cigarette Burns.
Yeah,
Cigarette
that's-
Burns,
I love
yeah,
that.
that's really up there too. John Carpenter's, yeah.
We got to do a whole episode or 2 or 3 on that series alone.
Yeah, we
Well,
really should.
let me get done with it first, and
Well, yeah, that
20 hours.
that will give you motivation and get me to rewatch them again because I own them all on DVD, then rebought them all on Blu-ray. So
Well, they're free on the Roku channel right now. And then Mike and I watched a TV show, but I assume he doesn't have a lot, so I'll give it to him. Segue. I'll hand the baton to Mike. How's that?
all right, Mike, what did you watch?
Jason is correct. I haven't watched a whole lot lately.
You always
What
say
I
that.
have watched is Jason and I marathoned what we do in the Shadow series, the TV series.
Hell
yeah.
yeah, it's on Hulu now.
It's on Hulu
Watched the
now.
second episode of that today.
Oh,
Fucking
so
A.
funny.
So good.
So funny. Oh my god.
It starts off a little slow, but it really 3 or 4 episodes in really starts to kick ass once they've established all the characters.
Yeah, once you kind of get once they establish the characters, you kind of get in. Especially Guillermo. I can never say it right.
He's been your favorite from the beginning.
Well, him and I forget the character's name, but the energy vampire.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Colin Robinson.
Yes, he's heads down my favorite character on the show, but I definitely have a soft spot for Gamil.
But it's just as good as the movie.
It is.
Which one
And
do you have a
so
hard
good.
spot
And-
for?
And I was
Can't.
what?
I said, which one do you have a hard spot for?
Oh, I have a hard spot for. It's a medical condition. Anyway, yeah, it when I was worried at first when I started watching the first episode, I'm like, these are none of the characters from the movie,
Yeah.
But it didn't. It doesn't matter. They're all super funny, and still, it's a great show. And I won't give too much away since you're only on episode 1 there, Andy. But
Episode 2 today. I mean, but I
Okay.
agree with you. You do warm up to these new characters really quick. I mean, it's not a big deal. At least it wasn't to me.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, the werewolves come back at one point, which is cool. And my favorite is, what was it, the second to last episode where they go on
All the
trial.
cameos.
The cameo
yeah, all the
episode.
amazing cameos.
Holy hell.
so
good.
crazy good. Anyway, that's all I've had a chance
That's
to watch.
it. Just that.
It's
It's been 4 weeks since we recorded.
I was gone all of last week for conference for work.
Oh
So
my
unless you
gosh.
want me to talk about video game trailers, then yes, that is all I've watched.
All right, well, let's give the baton over to Becca. What did you watch?
Well, okay, so I guess I'm just going to go with my last week since I've never talked to you guys. So this past weekend, I was at Days of the Dead in Louisville.
Oh, cool.
So I've actually, since then I've even watched movies. So when we got back, We actually watched to prepare for the Joker, Falling Down, and The King of Comedy last night. I had never seen The King of Comedy. 1982, Robert De Niro. It's basically Joker is supposed to be a modern retelling of that movie, and it was fabulous. And then also watched the Ben Splits movie. Did anyone else watch that?
Yep, just watched it last night.
I was underwhelmed. I had high expectations though.
Yeah.
And everybody else that I know loved it. And I couldn't get into it. But that's neither here nor there. But at the con, I actually watched a movie called Angel that's just making the circuit right now. It's from Tori Jones and Sean Burkett from Don't Fuck in the Woods.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that was a solid movie. It's about like a feral little girl running around the forest killing people, and the little girl was actually there. She's about 10, maybe 11 years old, and there was a guy dressed up like Twisty the Clown from American Horror Story, and she would not walk out in the hallway unless her sisters went out and cleared the hallway and made sure that Twisty wasn't there, even though she was playing this murderous, like, feral child in this movie. So that was a good one. So if you get a chance to watch that one. Watched 100 Tears from Marcus Cook. That'll be for my podcast. And,
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, really good one. I don't know. I've watched a lot, so I'm passing it back to you guys. But those are the main ones that I can remember over the last week.
Okay, well, Andy, what did you watch?
Well, I've got a bit of a stack here, but I'll just tell you the good stuff. I mean, I watched Glow season 3.
Oh,
Got
yes.
that up.
I'm still working on that one.
I freaking me and the wife we love that show. I can't say enough good things about it. I of course went to Ready or Not, and I also at the same day I watched Ready or Not, I also watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I basically spent 7 hours in this theater. It was crazy. Today I sat down and I watched Hellbenders. Have you guys ever heard of that? Basically, what it's about, it's this certain group of priests that have been excommunicated, but they kind of work under the Vatican. But here's their deal: that exorcisms is all they do, but basically they have to be very, very sinful and very, very, nasty. They have to break all the 7 sins. So in order, if they kill themselves, basically they're able to take the demon to hell with them if push comes to shove. So that's what makes this movie kind of hilarious, because they're doing bong rips, they're drinking, and they're screwing, and but Clancy Brown, who let's see, did you guys ever see Carnival? Mm-hmm. The TV show? Okay, yeah, he plays the head priest in this, and he's just they want to shut him down. And I won't spoil the movie because I think you guys should see it. They're trying to shut him down, and then they say, he's cussing all the time. Just Clancy Brown calls this guy, everybody, cocksucker all the time, and he's like the head priest. He just goes and he says to this one guy, from the church, he says, "Don't you talk to me about, vanity, you cocksucker." And then he walks off, and he just stomps off into another room, and he just goes, shit and piss, and that's all he said. And it's the funniest damn part of the movie, just the way he stomps off like a petulant child. It's piss and shit. Anyway, moving on. I finished the 2nd season of The Strain, which I think is still really good. I just love what they do with the vampire myth and all this and that. Does anybody else here watch? I don't think Tad does.
Not me.
I finished I think I finished the 1st season, never bothered with the 2nd.
Oh, okay. I think the 2nd season, it discovers more of the history of it and everything, because they're looking for this book, and other characters come into play. There's a guy that's basically kind of like Blade, but he's like the master's half human son, and so basically he can walk around during the day. So now they have another hunter But yeah, I mean, I think it only went 3 seasons, but I'll probably buy the next season because I just want to finish the story. So,
Completist.
anyways, yeah, exactly. The Strain second season. I also bought Brightburn, which I really enjoyed. Have you guys had a chance to see
not
that?
Yep.
yet.
Oh, Salt and Theater is awesome.
Great.
Oh yes, absolutely loved it. To me, my mind went straight to The Boys. This could be the origin
Yes.
story for Homelander, hands
Yes. And that's what my co-host and I both said, is that the way that Homelander opened that door is the way the kid should have done it.
down. Yeah. Elizabeth Banks, she was great in it. I thought, and how conflicted the dad was when he, because I mean, he raised him as his own son. He tried to, instill the virtues that his parents did into him, but just like how conflicted he was when he had to shoot him, which it didn't really do anything anyway. But
Which
yeah,
was
really,
stupid.
yeah. And then it turns out he did pull a Homelander on his dad because he burned his eyes out, just like the way
Yeah.
he did with the shoe. So, little bit of lower budget here. I watched Homesick with Bill Moseley and Tiffany Shepis. Have you guys ever heard of this movie?
No.
The Synapse Films. Basically, it's a bunch of meth head rednecks, but their party gets interrupted by this Mr. They call him Mr. Teeth or something. Anyway, it's not important, but it's Bill Moseley. He comes in there, he sits down in this party, and he opens up this suitcase, and it's just full of razor blades, right? And these people are like freaking out, like, "What are you doing in this house?" And he's just like, "Well, who do you hate?" And he's just like, "You." I'm like, "Well, that's too easy. Who do you hate?" And just like, it's basically, in order to get him out of the house, these people just say like, "Who do you hate?" And he starts cutting himself with this razor blades. And eventually, he just leaves with all these cuts off on his arms. But soon, everybody that they hated end up dying by this unknown assailant. And but the last guy said he hates everybody in this room. So all the other people start dying these horrible deaths. But truth be told, even though it's got Tom Towles, Tiffany Shepis, and Bill Moseley, it's not that great. I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, I did it for the names. Plus, I really like Bill Moseley and Tiffany Shep. I like everybody in it. It's just that the story, not so great. I mean, I won't tell you not to watch it because you might really like it. But then again, I'll sit down and watch anything once. Kind of like one of the movies in our podcast that we're going to tackle tonight.
Hey.
I watched Dog with Dennis Leary and Elizabeth Hurley because it actually has one of the chicks from Glow in it. And she plays a chick with a dick, which was interesting. It's the chick who plays Melrose. She's actually in this. And it's basically about a guy who thinks he's going to inherit, all this money, but all he has to do in order to do it, he has to get 8 women to accept his apology because basically he was a dog to them. But he's like slept with like hundreds of women. But not bad. I mean, I like Dennis Leary, so it's worth checking out. Next up, I had The Dark Tapes, and basically lower budgets. It's been a while since I've seen this, but basically the only story that I can remember, because it's an anthology one. This couple is starting to have paranormal stuff going on around in their house, and they hire this team, and basically it's a setup so the husband and wife and their daughter can just murder this paranormal investigation team, and they show their daughter how to commit murders, which I thought was like really, really freaking gnarly. But yeah, Dark Tapes, it's worth a watch.
Cool.
Next one is Silent Retreat. It's another lower budget one, but it was actually pretty good. It's basically about this home for girls, with behavioral problems, but it's all run by men. But there's no rapey stuff like that. They said basically the rules are, you don't talk, you don't do anything, you can't listen to music, and you can't do any of this stuff. But it's basically these young women are sent here to be basically brainwashed into being like the perfect wives for men. They have to be completely complacent, but there's a bunch of other spooky other things going on. If the women aren't able to be conditioned, they basically get fed to something in the forest, but the forest basically comes back and eats and kills everybody, if that's how I remember it. But interesting. Silent Retreat. And for the last shit bomb, and this is on VHS, this is shot on video, and I won't go into how I acquired this. It's from one of my tape trading buddies that I met online. But this movie was filmed in 1986, shot on video in DeSoto, Missouri. And it's called Justice Ninja Style, because everybody knows that there's roving gangs of ninjas in the Show Me state, right?
Yeah.
Wow. This is some next level Ed Wood, Manos, Hands of Fate type shit.
I'll give you my address. You can send it to me.
It's a movie.
Ninja style.
Wow. Yes. Dot ninja style. Basically, a karate student gets framed for a murder that was done by a cop because this chick wouldn't, go out with. So they pin the murder on this jogger nearby who actually happens to be a karate student. But eventually, this ninja in DeSoto, Missouri, ends up breaking him out of jail and helping him. And basically, he's a descendant from a Japanese family that immigrated there to Missouri. And that's all I can really, give away about this. And the dialogue, basically, I could shove a Sharpie up my butt and then wiggle onto a brown paper sack and, pin you a better script. But
prove it.
Dude, that's how that's actually how I write all my stuff.
Okay.
You get,
Explains the smell.
Pungent. It's like Sex Panther. Yes, Justice Ninja Style. But he did send me a copy of Slime City, which I need to watch sometime soon. So
It almost sounds like Miami Connection without the charm and without the Dragon Sound band or something.
yeah, I've been wanting to see that actually.
Oh,
but
that's great.
You've
That
never
was
seen
actually
Miami
great.
Connection?
Oh my god.
I have not. But Justice Ninja Style maybe it's there's no way I could get rid of this movie because it's like just to say that I own this. I mean, just wow. Manhunt for Ninja back in '86 in DeSoto, Missouri.
Yeah.
That's
Was
all
that
I
outbreak.
got.
Yep. All right, Tad, what do you watch?
Well, I have actually not a huge list, but I never come with a huge list. I saw Ready or Not in the theaters, loved it. Saw Scary Tales in theaters, really like that. I watched the Banana Splits movie. I thought it started interesting and then got very predictable and pretty boring.
Aww. I have
Yeah.
such high hopes for that. I know it's sci-fi, but the concept is like so thrilling to me, man.
Never
Well,
heard
it
of it.
didn't.
No, they
know.
don't explore it enough.
Right, it didn't
They just-
bother me. Like it wasn't because of I didn't even really notice the Sci-Fi Channel production, but that isn't what hurt it all. Is the story wise, like they didn't do much with it.
That's a huge bummer to me because I just love the idea of taking like a Sid and Marty Krofft property, and instead of doing like a modern remake of it, like Land of the Lost or Dying a Girl, instead of doing that, just taking like these big lovable animal characters and making it a horror movie, and just thought the concept was so cool.
It could have been any characters. It really
Right.
could have. They really did not use the banana splits. And the other thing that I hear people say, they're like, "Oh, it's so gory." No, it's not. Every single kill was a cutaway, and that drives me insane. I hate that.
They have a little, yeah. There's a few scenes, but it's not like any more than you see in most horror movies. If anything, less. I think people were expecting it to, because it's like a sci-fi production, that it would not have much at all. So maybe in their mind they're like, "Man, this is a lot for a sci-fi movie." But like you said, it's sort of a waste to have them called the Banana Splits, because it doesn't, outside of the characters and the theme song, they don't really explore on it at all. It could, like you said, it could just be generic mascots.
Yeah.
And I got very bored, like probably about halfway through when when it should have started going down. I got bored at the wrong spot. I liked the build up, and then I'm like, "Oh, this isn't paying off anywhere." But you know, it's not even like an hour and a half. It's like one of those 80-minute movies. So it's check it out on your own. Don't listen. Don't just go by my judgment. You're gonna check it out anyways. But
But get it in Redbox. Don't pay $6 for video on demand like I did.
no, pay the dollar.
I still want to check it out, and if it's as bad as you guys say, I'll hold out for maybe possibly them doing a horror version of HR Puff and stuff.
Oh yeah, that would not
be
take
awesome.
much.
Yeah, I know
Lidsville.
that concept is like horrific as it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the 70s.
Oh, I feel like people watched it with Nikki, and she'd never heard of Banana Splits, and she was just sort of like, "What is this?" And without even having any connection to it, she was like really not liking it. She was just sort of like, "This is just like dumb." I'm like as a TV horror, made for TV horror movie. I'm like, yeah. If you really have no connection, then it's really like there's not even that nostalgia to it or the novelty of these characters doing evil things. So I don't know how many people that they're marketing towards actually know what the Banana Splits are. And I the most interesting part of it to me was like, how did they get the rights to use these characters in such a manner? You know what I mean? Like, how did they?
Sid and Marty
Hanna and Barbera are both dead.
I guess that's like their estate is just like, as long as you pay us, we don't care. Like, I mean, it just seems like an odd choice. I mean, it's such a cool idea when it was announced, and then it sort of, no pun intended, laid an egg. But I'm
kind of curious too of like the behind the scenes of the movie too, because Sid and Marty Krofft are very, very tight with their properties. So
well, that's what I'm saying is like, I don't get why they allowed this to happen, and then if they're going to go all out, and they really didn't. It just sort of, it was like, we're just buying the theme song and the look of the mascots, but outside of that, there's no real backstory to it. It doesn't really explain the origin of Banana Splits, like nothing. It's sort of like goes in with you assuming that these characters already, and you're familiar with the TV show.
Yeah.
And remember, that was a collaboration between Sid and Marty Krofft and Hanna-Barbera, so it could be that the pieces that they have were the things that Hanna-Barbera were willing to sell over to them.
That could very well be. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And not that there was any origins to those characters. I mean, that show was just basically, it was just like a skit comedy show, just people dressed up as like big dogs and shit. So
yeah, it was like the Monkeys, but for kids.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, another one I watched was a documentary called Hail Satan, and it has a question mark at the end, so it's Hail Satan. And has anyone else seen this one?
I'm Rod Burgundy.
It's a documentary about the rise of the Satanic Temple, and it's very interesting because it sort of follows the leader and how he went after, I think it's in Little Rock, Arkansas. They had a statue at their Capitol building of the Ten Commandments, so he raised money through the internet and did all the right legal moves and went after them to put up a satanic statue of, I think it's like Biebo, or I'm trying to remember the character's name.
Baphomet?
Yes, and they got like a professional sculptor to this humongous bronze sculpture with like a little kid at his knee, and it's so awesome. And basically like went to every city council meeting, they took it to the press. They went all out to get this statue at the city hall or the Capitol building because they thought it was with separation of church and state, you can't have one and deny another religion. And very interesting documentary because people like this whole thing started as not necessarily a pro-Satan church movement. It was actually just anti-organized religion. Really, it's these guys don't actually worship Satan in any way. They don't believe in Satan. They don't believe in God. They don't believe they're atheists who just believe in equality of all beliefs and religions. So they were doing it just to sort of spite the super religious people that wanted this statue up there. And it's on Hulu. It's very good. It's very interesting because the way it's not just a bunch of idiots in black shirts and long hair like being assholes. These guys are going about it the right way, and they're doing it, and they're very open about why they're doing it.
Cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very
lights are.
It's very good.
Hail Satan.
Yeah, that's what it's called. It's on Hulu. Just got uploaded.
Awesome. I'll check that out.
Another one I watched was not necessarily horror, but very good. Was called Family. I don't know if you guys have seen this from 2018. I don't even know what you'd call it. It's definitely comedy. I guess just a straight comedy. But it has Taylor Schilling from Orange is the New Black and The Prodigy. She's like a sort of a very, very busy, career-driven, middle-aged woman who's spent her whole life trying to get ahead in her career. Despite she never makes friends, never has boyfriends, just sort of works all the time to make it further and make more money, get more success. And one day her brother calls and says, we need somebody to watch our daughter, and we don't have anyone else, so you have to watch her overnight. And that overnight turns into a week. And it turns out like their daughter is a teenager and she's sort of going through some shit, and she befriends some juggalos. And so it's
that old story
turning that way. And I almost spoiled the movie, but it starts, the movie's first opening shot doesn't necessarily spoil, but it's the very opening shot is this very last shot, and basically this kid ends up at the gathering of the juggalos, and they have to go to try to find her. And it's sort of at some point makes fun of the juggalos, but then sort of shows like that you shouldn't judge people by their looks or by what they listen to. It sort of shows that these people accepted this daughter who was having a hard time fitting into school and stuff. She's having a hard time getting bullied at school, and she found these juggalos that accepted her, and it's sort of nice, but it's so goddamn funny. Has Kate McKinnon in it, Alison Tolman. It's very, very, very funny.
And it's called what?
It's called Family.
Family.
Yeah, and it did a lot of AFI Fest, South by Southwest. It had a good festival run. It's a little indie movie, and we were laughing hysterically at it. It has actually has Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope. It has they were well aware it was being made, so it doesn't just make fun of juggalos. But god damn, is it so funny. Her Taylor Schilling, I didn't know she was so funny. She is absolutely a monster in this movie and sarcastic. Everybody in her office hates her. She's such a bitch, but she's so funny. Oh man, like we were crying, we were laughing so hard last night. We just saw it, online, and just let's watch that on a whim, and it was so good.
And where is it, you say?
I'm not sure where this one might be on Hulu also.
Cool.
So yeah, and let's see. I think another thing I was watching, I started is I'm late to the party, but The Curious Creations of Christine McConnell on Netflix. Has anybody watched that?
I don't know what that is.
No, but it didn't get picked up for another season, though, did it?
No, but
Yeah.
it's not a show that's like you don't have to. It doesn't has no story really to it, so you don't have to watch. There's no cliffhanger by any means. What it is, it's very very strange. It's Christine McConnell is like a sort of pinup model slash crafter slash Instagram celebrity who got sort of famous because she transformed her house into like a big demon. She put big eyes on the front and teeth on the porch. And you've probably seen it online where her house looks sort of like a big monster. Sort of like that house in Monster House. But the show is like she has her own... it's almost like Better Homes and Gardens or like... Martha Stewart type thing. But she dresses like a pinup model, sort of. But it's like 1950 show. But she lives with like a dead raccoon that she brought back to life, a werewolf, and a mummy cat, and those are they're all puppets done by Jim Henson's studio. And the show is she shows how to make food that looks like Satan's horns, or cupcakes that look like brains and that kind of stuff. But it's done very in a funny sort of dry humor way, where the werewolf and the cat and stuff sort of help her, and they provide funny commentary. And in between the segments where they're showing how to cook, they're up to they kidnap a neighbor and strap him to a table and threaten to kill him, or different things. and she's very calm, and it's very much like Addams Family or the Munsters, where she has this big crazy house, and he's like I said, there's a raccoon that's been killed and it has a fork as a hand, and it's sort of the humorous part of the show. So. Yeah, I highly recommend it. I guess there's no cliffhangers. You aren't going to miss anything. It's okay. It didn't get picked up for the next season, but it's really cool.
What's it called again, Tad?
Serious Creations of Christine McConnell.
Okay.
Yeah, it got me in the Halloween mood, because it's definitely a October setting, very spooky but very cool. So yeah, that's everything I watched.
Awesome. Cool. So now we can get into this episode's topic, and our topic is again the year 1968. So we got 3 movies to talk about.
1968.
Yes,
It's a long time ago.
it is. So I'm gonna turn it over to Andy to start the conversation about our first movie tonight.
Okay, the first movie that we're going to talk about is Death Laid an Egg.
There's something dark, something strange inside of me that forces me to act quickly without thinking. Anna, with the flames in her eyes. But I loved Gabrielle, so soft and warm and sweet. I wanted her. Oh God, I wanted her. I couldn't get away, even though I tried. There was no time. They were after me. They spied on me. They knew about me. I've got to do it. Right away. Right away. Now. The plan was so clear in my mind. Complete. Perfect. I had to find some way to get out of this. And there was only one way. One way. Everything around me was rotten. The society, the people, everything. Just as everything was rotten inside of me. No one noticed. No one saw that I had made my decision. There was only one way to destroy the clouds of dread that obsessed me. Only one way to be free. Ada, Gabriel, Ada, Gabriel. No, that's enough. Hurry, get out. Don't look. Death follows me wherever I go. I want to get out of this stupid farce. To get out of the empty room. Away from the nightmares, the fears, the desires of this absurd and horrible reality.
Saunders, you son of a bitch. Well, basically, this movie is about a love triangle that develops between this chicken farmer, I guess, named Anna, and her husband Marco. I'm not going to try to pronounce their names because I think they're Italian, and I can't pronounce them anyway, but basically, supposedly, her husband Marco moonlights as a killer of prostitutes, and they have this very beautiful secretary named Gabriella. Marco supposedly continues his rampage and as a moonlighting serial killer as jealousy between the lovers continues to rise. First thing, I did not like this film. I didn't like it.
Nope.
Basically, they tried to be like, they added so many plot twists into this, like they're trying to be witty, but they were just pissing me off by this point. I gotta ask, was the main title sequence composed by a 4-year-old?
The whole music score was
the fucking score. Holy shit! What was that?
Yeah, the whole music score was just a cat running up and down the keyboard.
I mean,
And
just like
knocking spoons off the shelf, and
Yeah,
it's they're Marco. He would be waking up, and he'd be putting on a bathrobe, and the music would be going. Calm the fuck down. It's just this loud cacophony of just utter shit.
I will say, I feel like they did the score. They watched the movie and they're like, "How are we going to get people to stay awake during this? Let's just make a bunch of fucking noise the whole time."
I mean, I have a niece that could pretty much pound on a piano and just be pretty much on par with the sound of this movie.
Jason, have you gotten the soundtrack to this one yet?
No, and I won't.
I think you should.
Just, I really, I couldn't make sense because I mean it would move too slow for me. Man, just
The best part of the movie is the title, because it's like, oh, Death Laid an Egg, what is this? And that's as far as the interest went for me.
I mean, it is the most accurate title for any movie in the history of cinema. Like, it's not lying at all.
Right.
And I love how the alternate title of this movie is called Plucked. That's also an equally awesome title.
from where? The toilet?
Oh.
The tagline is, "We are not permitted to even hint at what happens, but it's more than murder." Eh.
I mean, the dog going into the chicken feeder. I mean, like, why?
That was the most
Yeah.
suspenseful scene of the whole movie, too. Like,
Right, like, what's the dog doing up there?
we all knew it was going to happen. This movie's bonkers, but I think its biggest crime in any movie, its biggest crime could be that it's boring. This movie does drag on unnecessarily through large portions of the film. There's a lot of weirdness of this movie that I like, but the slow pace of it and the nonsense scenes that serve no purpose to anything really drag it down for me. So, but the score is just nonsensical, and I get a kick out of that. Because I'm a huge Italian horror movie fan. I love giallo films, and it's obviously dipping its toes into the giallo genre. And I love how it's a giallo movie that is not a giallo movie. Like, you talk about how he goes out and kills women, but is he really?
Yeah, but
Spoilers
he does have
for the end of the movie.
But he does have a pair of black leather gloves. I mean, you have to have a black pair of leather gloves in order to have a giallo movie at this point. I think that's like a
Yes. And bad dubbing.
And bad dubbing, yeah.
Bad dubbing and like really weird dialogue. The dialogue in this was, I'll say I love this movie. I really did like it. So Jason just said we've started talking Death Lady Egg. We need your positivity. So I jumped back on. I just thought it was so ridiculous and charming, but I love that stuff. Those are the things that giallo and, like I said, the bad dubbing and the bad dialogue, and you just don't know what the hell these people are talking about. And then add in a chicken farm. A chicken farm.
Yeah.
Come on. You can't go wrong with that. I don't know.
They did go wrong with it.
Like the whimsical photo shoot in the chicken farm. I was like, where's this movie gonna go?
Oh, exactly. You don't know.
And it went nowhere.
I will say the same things probably you guys would say about it, but I will say it with some positivity. Let's put it that way.
I'm with you. I like all the things that you're saying. I'm just saying I feel like its biggest crime, and which loses a lot of points for me, is that it just drags on. It's rather boring and does nothing for quite a good chunk of the movie. But when you get to scenes like the mutant chickens with no heads, that I'm just like, and then he goes back and she's like, "Don't you do anything, but I'm going to leave you alone. Don't you dare kill these chickens, even though I know you want to, and I'm just going to leave you alone with these chickens." And then what's the first thing he does is he pops them like pinatas, and like that whole sequence was batshit crazy, and I loved it. It's those little set pieces like that, that it's like, and what purpose does it have to do with anything that's going on in this movie? None. And so it's great, but there's just so much in between all of that where nothing's happening that really drags it down. And like I was saying before, I love giallo films, I love Italian films, and I love their wacky camera style. How in filmmaking you really should never do in-camera zooms and in-camera zoom in, zoom outs, and pans and stuff like that. And I was getting nauseous. I can imagine watching this movie in the theater, and the first 10 minutes of the movie where every single shot was a fast-paced move, whether it was a zoom in, a zoom out, a fast pan to the left, a fast pan to the right, or up or down. It's just the camera was all over the place, and it was nauseating. It's like they were trying to be really Italian and really stylistic without the skill or knowledge on how to be stylistic.
Yeah, they were trying to bend the genre, I think. They were trying to kind of put their own thing into it, but then the music at first I was like, I'm really digging this music. And then by the end I was like, oh my God, this music is killing me.
Yes.
I thought maybe someone dropped like a box of silverware upstairs. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is-
Somebody was like stepping on a couple guitars or something. I don't know.
Cat was running across the piano, you know.
Well,
I don't understand some of the decisions that they were making. Like Marco, he wakes up, he
Hello.
goes down to the lab, he spills something. Now, if you're in a lab, are you just gonna willingly smear your hands all over this shit?
Yeah.
You know, it just it doesn't make any sense. I mean, like for instance, like Marco, he goes to the hotel at one time to meet up with one of these hookers, right? And her name's Monica, and she actually has the most hilarious looking pair of shades I've ever seen. And first of all, is the sunlight so bad inside that, you know, hotel that she needs to be wearing shades in the first place? I mean, I don't understand some of the decisions that were made in this movie. It just, I can't wrap my head around it.
And there were a few things that had no bearing whatsoever on the movie. And the first one is that the workers were so angry. Like, that
Oh,
went
yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah,
It's
nowhere.
like, okay, yeah, they're out of a job. Like, are we supposed to think they're somehow going to be nefarious, but they never come back, although they are like a little gang of, like, thugs standing outside. Like, look
It's
like
like
they're
you
ready.
Yeah, you don't
ready
see
for
too many.
West Side Story or something.
You don't see too many people on, you know, too many workers, you know, when we're talking about a very huge, you know, chicken farm too. You know, it's like 5 guys can handle all this.
when
I think a couple machines could have taken over.
I watched this movie just yesterday, and like the guys had already expressed their not fanness of this movie, and then Becca said she kind of liked it, so I'm like, well, shoot, the guys were really making it sound like the world's biggest turd. Like, I don't know, I just thought it was somewhere. I thought it was going to be like Invasion of the Blood Farmers or something
Oh,
like
no.
bad,
No.
and I'm like, oh. It's actually a I mean,
In
money
comparison to Blood Farmers.
yes, money was spent, real cameras were used, real actors and actresses were used, like the quality,
Real chickens were used.
real chickens were
Yeah.
So I didn't think
Okay.
it was as bad as
Except
As
the
you
headless
guys
ones,
were
I don't
making
think
it-
those were real.
out to sound, but I just saw it more as an exercise in style. I had, you know, like I'm with Andy. The decisions didn't make sense. But then Mike says every time I say that, Mike's like, "Hey, it's Italian. Who cares?"
Yeah.
You know. So I
like
don't have
the
to look.
whimsical nature of Italian things. Like, they're not afraid to try things, and maybe that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
And I did like that. I did feel like it was going to be one of those style over substance movies where in the end it was
Yeah.
just like, you know, done. Play some weird music and that's it. But it did actually like wrap it up. I was really surprised that it actually did like explain things and it had like an ending to it.
If you stayed around for the ending, guys,
If you were still awake.
if you paid attention to the end.
Well, I think, you know, the ending should have been, I think they should have taken the master print and actually thrown that into the chicken processor.
Oh
Right.
my.
So have you guys ever been at a party and decided just to clear out a room and have a room of truth as a fun party game?
Every weekend.
That sounded like
That's what this
delightful,
podcast
right?
is.
Yeah.
I watched this with a friend, and he was like, "Is this some like? Did they have film school back then? This seems like someone's project in school. Like they tried really hard to. They saw like one Italian film, and they're like, I can do an art house film, and they just like they had to finish the score overnight for their final, so they." Just, you know, slammed a bunch of instruments around the room and made a bunch of really quick, crazy edits. And like, shit, I still have to fill like, you know, like 10 more minutes. Let's add a few more like weird ass shots and stretch this title sequence out as long as we can. And yeah, it just, yeah.
Is he
Now,
still your
you-
friend?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good.
I left a barbecue with him tonight to get to be on the podcast. So
Oh, Did you give him a few chickens without heads?
No. He was like, I was like, oh, I've got to go to record the podcast, and he's like, oh, you talking about that movie? I'm like, this is one of them.
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, do you guys think that, like, let's say that this was called, death comes to town or something, and the factory was actually just like some sort of factory or like a clothing store or something like that. Do you think that you would have had a little bit better, impression of it? Like, to me, I hear Death Laid an Egg. I'm thinking it's going to be like some like rompy like Russ Meyer thing or something. And then the chickens were just, I mean, why chickens? Why would these people buy a chicken farm? And what did the chickens have to? Obviously, the writer or director or somebody knew someone who had a chicken farm and wrote it around that.
Yep.
But just even to call it Death Laid an Egg, I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, see, I don't know. That, to me, that's the redeeming qualities of the film, is the crazy ass title and the fact that it takes place on a chicken farm.
Yeah, that's the only like
Insane.
novelties to me. Yeah.
So if they were to make it a little more traditional standard, I would be even less into it, I think.
Me too. Yeah.
Probably wouldn't even have watched it.
Probably not. No, probably not, because as soon as I saw that title, I'm like, yep, on the list.
Yeah, and I'm convinced that it's because, Tad, we recently discussed how we've had it pretty good for the last few episodes. Mike hasn't given us any stinkers. Well, we spoke too soon.
Mike had to lay an egg on
He
us.
did.
That's right. Andy, you were saying before
Well, I'll
that
tell you.
you were saying before, Andy, that you didn't. I heard you say something about you didn't think those chicken balls with no heads were real, but I don't know, buddy. When they were holding one of them and the feet were twitching, there's no 1960s Italian special effects that look that good. And the fact that it was 1960s Italian cinema, long before the ASPCA, I think those things were real, and he really smashed those poor headless chickens.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, headless chickens, it doesn't, it has no bearing to the story whatsoever. It's just...
That's why I love that scene. It makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, it's... God damn it. I mean, I think that the only thing that I'm going to take from this is like that room of truth thing. I'm going to have everybody come over to my, a bunch of my friends come over to my house, and I say, we're going to play Room of Truth. That's a good way to help them move furniture if I need to paint the fucking room or something, okay?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to play Room of Truth. Okay, move all this shit over here, and okay.
Nice.
All right, now grab a brush. Help me paint.
Yeah.
You dumbasses.
What was the point, too? I mean, I guess it was what ended up killing the wife, but what was the point with his, quote-unquote, killing the prostitutes and then not really killing prostitutes? I didn't get that. Was that just so that we had black gloves?
I'm
I
assuming
think it was
maybe
like a weird...
Yeah, it was
He's like a weird
or
fetish.
something. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was obviously a fetish, but I mean, that to me, that was like, oh, twist. Except for it's really stupid, but I like it.
Yep, it's like I said, it's a giallo movie that's not a giallo movie because, spoiler alert, all these scenes of him killing these women, come to find out they were just faking it the whole time. They weren't really
he killed me 2 times last week.
Yeah. As soon as she said that line, I'm just like, oh, crazy Italian dialogue, that makes no sense. And then,
yeah.
Oh.
and
That's really what she meant.
she literally meant that.
Yes.
Screw that. Give me that scene in Tenebrae where that chick gets her arm chopped off. I'll take that any day of the week.
And never mind.
Thank you.
Was speaking about the crazy dialogue too. If I heard them say the association one more time, like I think they say the association more than they say Michael in the Lost Boys.
Whoa.
I'm just saying.
Whoa. Is that possible?
Okay, I'm just going to throw this out here. That looking at the credits, there is an art director. There's a makeup department, but it's just makeup artist and hairstylist. There's no special effects department in here. So let's just say maybe those really are headless chickens. I mean, you theoretically could cut the chickens' heads off and they'd twitch around for a while, right?
Yeah. But they kind of looked like
I think
like
they breed
large
chickens.
balloons filled with water and then with feathers glued on them. But when you saw those chicken
Yeah.
legs kicking, those were chicken legs, man.
I think they breed chickens to not have heads.
I wouldn't be
real.
surprised,
That's a
honestly,
real
that
thing.
that could be a real thing. Yeah. And the whole time when they're talking, when he first spills the stuff in the lab, and everybody's like, "Who did this? Who did this? This is going to cause genetic problems or whatever." And did you do that? And he's like, "No, I didn't do it." And the whole time I'm thinking, and then when it gets to the part with the balls of chicken with headless chickens, I'm thinking, oh, if only this movie would all of a sudden turn into this like giant mutated monster chicken that
wasn't
starts
that
killing people.
toxic waste or something? Dang.
Yes, if this was an American movie, that was
Yeah.
where it would have
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. It would have gone Night of the Lepus, a little bit. That'd be
Yeah.
nice.
Oh man. No, I'm not seeing anything online about breeding chickens with no heads. There was the one, Mike, the chicken that lived for 18 months without a head, but that was it. So, just saying.
I tend to think maybe they like had some kind of like balloon thing and put a chicken in it. Maybe that's what they did.
But see, wouldn't that take an effects person? I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
I don't- maybe we're thinking a little bit
Yeah.
too much of this.
We're
Yeah.
thinking of this movie way too much. Thanks, Mike.
You are
Hey,
all
thanks,
welcome.
Mike. I
You're
actually
welcome.
enjoyed it. I woke up the other morning and I sat there and drank my coffee and watched this, and I found it very enjoyable.
Awesome. Good.
She might be the first. All right.
Yes.
I actually wanted to start drinking. And I've been sober for 13 years.
Yeah, that actually was the rough part, is that I was doing this in the morning, because I think it would have been much more enjoyable with some wine. But the fact that all I was drinking was coffee was amazing.
Should have Irished it up, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, so we can move on to our next film now. Tad, what's our next movie?
Our next movie is The Devil Rides Out.
Rex, do you believe in evil? As an idea. Do you believe in the power of darkness? As a superstition. Now there you are wrong. The power of darkness is more than just a superstition. It is a living force which can be tapped at any given moment of the night. Why, on one night of 1 year, should these people live in mortal fear? My God, the goat of Mentis, the devil himself. Christopher Lee as Richelieu, who knows he must fight the devil's power to the death. My God. Don't look at the eyes, Rex! Eyes, once filled with love, are consumed with fear. For Tanith is now promised to the devil. Listen carefully to what I say. This is McCarter, the devil's chief disciple. Your will is leaving you, slipping away. The Devil Rides Out, from bestseller author Dennis Wheatley's famous novel, fills the screen with a special kind of visual terror. What do you think quickly? Back to back, join hands! You will hear his evil. You will feel his evil. You will see his evil. If we once catch sight of his face.
Woo!
The Devil Rides Out is a Hammer film starring Christopher Lee, and I won't explain the entire story, but it basically revolves around something I sort of talked about earlier in what we watched, sort of like a satanic cult, We open up with a shot with these two guys going to a party. They seem to sort of have a hunch that something's going on here. It's a private party, and they're asked to leave because they're not members. They disrupt it. They disrupt the ceremony. They end up finding out it's a sort of gathering for an occult, and interrupt it, and it goes from there. I like this one quite a bit. I'm assuming you guys some of you have seen this before.
I had not.
No, this is a first time watch for me as well, and I'm kind of shocked that I've never seen it before, being a Hammer film, and the fact that, like, as soon as the movie started and the music score kicked in, I'm like, I know this song, and Phantomos, Mike Patton, one of Mike Patton's bands, Phantomos did this awesome album called Director's Cut, where it was all like theme songs from different movies, and they did that song on that album, Devil Rides Out, and even the original version is freaking awesome, you know. So obviously this movie's had some notoriety. So
yeah, the opening of this is the opposite of Deathlight Egg, where it's really cool, has cool music and cool title sequence. It's like
yeah.
It's what you're supposed to do with the movie.
Yeah.
It starts out similar to like the AIP productions during the same time period. You know, lots of musical fanfare and artistic imagery, and I dug it. And I was really excited when I saw that it was written by Richard Matheson. Because he wrote, freaking House of Usher, Pit and the Pendulum, Legend of Hell House, Duel. I was just like, all right, man, I'm in. I'm ready to see this. And I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I really loved it too. It is probably now, I'd have to say, maybe my favorite Hammer film, now that I finally have gotten to see it. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then Richard Matheson's one of my favorite writers. For me, Last Man on Earth is one of my favorite pieces of literature ever. But, but yeah, like this to me is if Hammer did a Marvel movie, Christopher Lee would be the Doctor Strange movie with Christopher Lee as Doctor Strange.
For real.
Like, he was just so cool in this movie.
He was so awesome.
And what's nice is you don't have a protagonist that's always 10 steps ahead of the bad guys. Like, the bad guys, the good guys don't seem to ever really catch a break through most of this movie. Like, they're just playing catch up the whole time. Yet Christopher Lee is like, well, they're doing this, so we got to counteract it with this. So just his like knowledge of this like occult,
walking encyclopedia,
Yeah, and just his coolness about everything and his sense of urgency. Like this was like a Hammer superhero movie for me.
And he always gave off like that debonair kind of flair, dude. It's just like he was cool looking.
Cool.
He was just he was just real suave, just a bad dude.
So, and when they go to that party and their friend invites them in, and they see the big group of people, as soon as I saw Charles Gray on screen, I wanted to shout, "The man you're about to see has no fucking neck."
Yep.
Blofeld from Diamonds Are Forever, or
nah, fuck that. He's the criminologist from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
He works for Spectre too, man.
Oh, that's fine. I'm just saying Rocky Horror Picture Show.
You're not gonna start doing the time warp, are you?
He might.
Too late.
Yeah, that was the first thing I looked up. I was like, I know that guy. How do I know that guy? Great, Scott. Oh, wait, I know him, So this movie, I guess I'm in the minority here, so I'll just shut up for most of this. But I found this kind of boring. I really like Hammer movies. I've seen a lot of them. I've seen a lot of them when I was a kid. But I wrote down, especially with the car chase, it felt like a very long episode of The Avengers. And I don't mean the Marvel Avengers. I mean The Avengers, 1960s. And I love that show. We're talking like Emma Peel, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But and a couple of the people actually were from, they had been in The Avengers when I found that out. But I thought this was kind of boring. I don't know. But maybe here's the thing. I went to see Ready or Not, which, spoilers, it's a cult thing. There's several satanic cults. Sorry if you guys haven't, the listeners haven't seen it, but I went and saw that, and then I came home immediately and watched this, and I was like, well, this isn't nearly as cool as the last satanic movie I watched.
Sure.
I
Yep,
thought
Minority.
that- I love like watching Christopher Lee. When he's acting and he's driving. Did you notice the way he was steering? His ass would have been all over the fucking road. I'd rather take
always like that. Is that like a pre-power steering thing or something?
Yes.
I guess so, man. Because I'm looking there, I'm just like, shit. I'd rather take my chances with the Colt, man. I'd be like, get out of his way. Christ. I thought the smoke rising out of the goat from the floor was cool. I mean, you could when they do the close up, you can totally see that it's coming out, just holes in the floor. But I just thought that the effects that they had in this movie for the time that it was made was probably really damn good. And I laughed my balls off when he punched his when the windows fogged over. In the car chase, and the way he did it, he was just like, "Fuck this windshield," and he just punches it. Awesome.
Yeah, there was like green screen type stuff going on with the car, and I thought the effects were pretty kick ass.
Okay, so here I told Jason that there was one thing that made me laugh hilariously, and it was myself. It was a joke that I made, and we'll see if anybody else gets it. Mm-hmm. When the two guys, the main guys, they open up whatever it is and they unleash what I don't even know what it was called, the big black guy with the smoke, and he looked like a genie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I yelled, "Big Jim Slade!" Does anybody get that? Oh, man, nobody gets that? Kentucky Fried Movie.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
All right, now I do.
Yeah, So, that was the most entertaining. That is the most entertaining part of the movie for me.
Yeah, when that moment happened, I'm like, it's just a black man standing there. There's no creepy makeup on him or anything. Not even.
What he was doing was fucking creepy as shit.
I just thought it was smiling at them. Like,
I thought it was
really pervy way.
It scared the shit out of me. His eyes
like a nasty looking Kazam or something,
Yes.
I love this movie. I'm with you guys. Like, I could not look away from Christopher Lee and his performance in this. I have a definite blind spots in my history of Hammer films, and I haven't seen very many, sadly, and
I haven't either.
Holy fuck, man.
You're not alone.
This is probably my favorite of the three we watched. I just couldn't blink when Christopher Lee was on screen. I was totally into the story and everything, and I thought it was fucking awesome.
And that's the thing, for a Hammer film even, I've seen quite well, it's the 60s. We just got done talking about Death Lays an Egg kind of dragging on. There's
Gothic.
a lot of Gothic imagery, a lot of slow pace, a lot of dialogue scenes. This movie from the get-go starts and does not stop. It is like chasing each other around through the whole freaking movie.
Yeah.
Like the bad guys coming for the good guys run away from the bad guys.
Yeah.
The bad guys, come after the good guys again. The good guys go to get their friends back, and it's just back and forth through the whole thing. I don't know how I feel about like the time travel ending personally, but
yeah.
Hell, it gave a good ending.
That was okay.
Convenient.
It was too but it was too sad to lose that girl.
Well, that's just telling you.
Tanith. She needed to get her satanic baptism so she could get rid of that stupid name. Tanith?
Well,
what kind of name is that?
For you, that should be telling you, man, that this movie worked for you on a character level. If you felt that she needed to survive,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean?
Is that like a Shakespeare character going out and sunbathing? I need to tanneth.
oh my
Oh,
god.
jeez.
I need to tanneth my legs.
And And I love the scene where they're in the circle and then the giant tarantula attacks.
Fuck
and,
yeah.
And the death on the
Angel
horse
death.
attacks, and I just love it. I mean, nowadays those effects are pretty.
Yeah, I just know that
shitty
I need to
looking,
keep a
but-
pocket full of crosses I can just throw at the bad
That's
things.
right.
And
Yeah.
they explode when you hit them.
Very, very large ones as well.
But-
I mean, those were not pocket-sized crosses.
Even the devil dude goat dude guy was
yeah.
awesome.
He was awesome looking.
Yeah.
And I love how he was just there, stoic, and he did nothing. Like all the evil imagery just doesn't do anything. They just stand there and be creepy. But
All crisscross applesauce with his hooves and stuff.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I really feel like this movie created its world and its rules within its world and stuck to those rules. I mean, that's a lot of my problem, I feel like, when you really get into supernatural elements in movies, especially in this day and age, with a lot of the ghosty movies, that they could just do whatever they want because they can just write it off as, it's supernatural. We don't have to explain things. But this is like, really feels like, every time Christopher Lee just happened to have like the right tool to get out of the situation, it felt like it was proper and not a convenient way out. You know what I mean?
I agree.
That
Loved
really
it.
fit into the world.
I mean, and he was given given a seminar every time he opened his mouth too. He was just like, "Well, this is this, and this is this," but I didn't feel like I was like, being preached to or anything. You know what I mean? It's just like he was so smart in this movie. His whole I think Chris Lee's whole performance in this movie was just really, really good. I dug it.
I just read on the IMDb trivia that Roddy McDowall was scheduled to play the character Simon. That's their friend that they that was
shit.
part of the 13.
And he was
that they were
great,
trying to
but
rescue.
that would have been.
That guy was great, but you know what? I'm sitting here watching. When I was watching it, I'm thinking
He's kind of wrong.
he's kind of reminding me of Roddy McDowall. Just how much
matter.
better that would have been if it was, though.
The Devil Rides Out. It's on YouTube. Oh
Yep.
man! So you all
Good
can
quality
watch it.
too. Didn't you say it was a?
Yeah,
I think it was a
1080p.
1080p.
wasn't it?
It's
1080p.
good.
Yeah.
Well,
really
Tad
good. Yeah.
introduced the movie, but he hasn't said much about it.
Oh no!
I said I liked it.
Okay.
Okay.
It was really. I mean, I really didn't have much else to add to what you guys are saying. It's like I don't want to just repeat what you're saying because it was definitely Christopher Lee's badass and cool in this. And now that you mention it being sort of like a Marvel movie with him as Doctor Strange, absolutely, yeah.
The way you put that together, that's genius, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, you mean, it's your average of seeing a Christopher Lee movie, it's at least going to be entertaining. So,
Yeah.
I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Cool. And have you had much experience with Hammer films?
No, not really at all.
Okay. All right.
No box set that you haven't opened yet. Sitting
No,
on your shelf? Okay.
No, I have like there's a couple Hammer Blu-ray sets on my Amazon wish list, but
Yeah.
I don't own any.
We need to do a Hammer
This-
episode, I feel.
This is really
Brian
good.
back.
This is an awesome Christopher Lee movie, but I mean, it doesn't quite beat The Wicker Man for me. But
Oh no, I'm not saying it's my
it's-
favorite Christopher Lee, but
No,
like
yeah.
I said in general, even the worst Christopher Lee movies better than Death Laid an Egg. So
That's a fact. But Mike, you
Yeah.
said it's your favorite
God,
Hammer.
whatever. Haters.
Yeah, I'm not super versed in Hammer,
Oh.
but I've seen a good handful. And I know there's a lot I've seen that I don't even remember, but I've seen a couple of the Lee Dracula movies. I've seen a few of the Frankenstein movies. I've seen, what's that one vampire movie? Count Yorga?
Yorga.
Yeah, Yorga.
Yeah.
I've seen that one.
I've seen 72 AD.
I don't think I've seen that one. I've seen like the early Lee ones, like Satanic Rites of Dracula and whatever is the first one just called Dracula?
It might
I don't
be.
even remember. So I've seen a handful, but like this one, I just found I just found, again, like pacing wise, it's just go time to the whole movie. Even when it does have moments of like exposition and dialogue and stuff, it's still things still feel like they're moving along. Just where a lot of times, especially with some of those like, with them doing Universal monsters like Dracula, Frankenstein, so on. There's just so many scenes of just like, let's stop and talk. So.
Got a little bit of that Munsters fast motion during the car chase scene that I noticed. Which, hey, I don't mind that. I think that's kind of fun.
All right, so one more movie, right?
That's right.
What's the last movie we're going to talk about,
The
Jason?
last one we're going to talk about, which also has a little bit of Munster fast motion running in it. This movie is called Corruption.
There are shock-making scenes in Corruption. We advise you not to come alone. Run. 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 You can't escape the thrills, the terror of corruption.
That's it. Freak out, baby. Come on, that's it.
No, please, leave me alone.
Come on up.
We repeat our advice. No woman should come alone to see corruption.
I've got what they call a warm personality. Mind you, I don't believe everything people say.
The suspense could be too much.
I'll call the police. I'll tell them you're mad. Who do you think they'll believe? You or me?
Corruption. The title speaks for itself. Brace yourselves for a real thrill shocker.
A doctor goes to extreme lengths, even murder, to restore the badly burned face of his fiancée. Directed by Robert Hartford Davis. That's what I know. I like this movie. It's pretty good.
I was in the moment it started, like that really nice, like Technicolor. The music was great. The way that, like the font and everything that was coming up for the titles. Yes. Loved it.
Yes, and this is the most 60s movie out of the three that we have.
This is the Austin Powers party.
Exactly. Yes.
Absolutely.
But it had kind of the same thing as the last one, where Peter Cushing is the fucking man, and when he's on screen, he steals it. He's awesome.
Yeah, you just can't stop watching him in this movie.
Good.
Yeah, at the very beginning, I was like, oh my god, the very first thing I'm looking up is, what is the age difference between him and this woman, and why did they choose to cast him like this? And then, it's very apparent, very, very early on, why they did it. It's not just a thing of well, we could get this guy that has a name, so we're just going to try to pretend like he's younger or something, because age plays into it. So...
Yeah, and I was so proud of him when he decided to go to the party, and he was really trying. He was trying to be cool and hang out.
Yeah, I mean,
fucking photographer asshole.
Some of us who graduated school in the 90s. I mean, we might have that problem with parties sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I noticed that he woke up in the middle of Masterpiece Theater. Did you notice that? From his nap, and he woke up with a book in his lap. I mean, that's what he. I mean, it literally looked like I was just like, "Is this fucking Masterpiece Theater?"
This one, I will say, I really love this one. I love the main girl on this. Yep. In this, she was in. Was the main one? Is she the one that was in some of the Doctor Who stuff? I'm not super. Or is it the sister? She and the sister look exactly alike.
They're
By the way.
both
They
great.
definitely could.
They
yeah.
were both great, and they definitely look like sisters.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, this one it was so predictable. It really was. From like, I mean, when this first started, like, and you know she's going to get burned, you know exactly where this is going. I mean, they have heavy foreshadowing, everything, but it didn't bother me at all because I just thought it was like the characters were great. Peter Cushing was great. I thought this like flowed really well. Now, I will agree with you guys. I watched the trailer. Trailer misrepresents just a little bit.
Just a little.
Oh my God, that
But-
trailer! Yes.
This actually looks more like a Giallo trailer
Yeah.
than anything.
That trailer, I thought we were gonna get into like a '70s rape revenge movie.
Yeah, you almost
Right.
didn't pick
No
it.
woman wants to go home alone or whatever. Like,
What?
And the whole
What?
trailer is just women screaming and Peter Cushing,
running.
Chasing
Peter
them.
Cushing either chasing him or pawing all over him.
This
So
is
I'm like,
gross.
what? What do we? I don't want to see Peter Cushing being a
No.
rapey dude.
And then it's nothing like that at all.
Yes.
no.
Yes.
I did have a moment in the movie where I'm just like, I mean, I'm in it. I love it. I'm following it. I'm all the way. Yes, it's predictable. But I care about everyone. But there's a moment where I'm like, it's just vanity. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you're really. This is all because just because of vanity. So I'm like,
Yeah, well, that's a
but
lot.
I'm like,
of
you know,
movies like this. That's a lot. That's usually how it plays out.
yeah.
Well, here's my question too. Okay, so he does whatever he does. He actually cuts the bad tissue off of her, puts other tissue on. Okay, I get that. Okay, so maybe her body would reject it, whatever. Why does the new skin, when it starts to go quote unquote bad, why does it turn into burned skin?
It's science.
Great
You don't-
question.
Wait
Yeah.
for us to
Science.
understand.
I'm no
Yes.
doctor, so I don't know.
But what
That's
I
right.
but what I do like about this
I mean, I'm
movie-
not doing anything to guinea pigs in my
Right.
my weekend cabin or anything.
You're not blowtorching guinea pigs to see, see if you can reconstruct their fur.
But what I thought was really interesting with this movie that I don't know made it different than what I thought it was going to be is that the wife was in on it, which was I thought really kick ass,
yeah.
which really made it different. It wasn't
Yeah.
like
When she
the
was
brain
the
that
main
wouldn't die,
motivator.
that was just the scientist doing these terrible things for this unsuspecting
Well, she didn't.
wife.
She didn't
but-
start out being in on it,
right.
but it was like because she saw that she could be better. Yeah, then she got it almost like addicted, like it was a drug.
Yeah, so I really
Yeah.
liked that she was part of it. Really made it different to me.
There was that moment of dialogue too, where they were talking about how this continual operation will drive her insane.
Yeah.
And so it's cool because we see that deterioration of
Uh-huh.
her throughout this movie.
Yeah.
You know, it just starts off that she's practically suicidal because she feels she's not as pretty as she once
Because
was.
a part of her
Yeah.
face.
Which,
I get
again,
it, but-
it's really vain and whatnot,
Sure.
yes, but that's why this movie, our
Yep.
protagonists have an unhappy ending.
Yep.
Because they are being vain. It's their punishment, I guess. They're,
Well, and not
their
even being
fate.
vain. They do mention that, like, yes, she could get skin grafting and could be fine, but all of the skin grafts would eventually like break her down mentally, and they would be painful or whatever. So they were trying to find a shortcut, and then they ended up taking the long road, essentially.
Yeah.
But,
I
you
mean,
know,
If they just would have gone with the standard medical procedure, she could have been fine
Yeah.
somewhere along the line. But yeah, they tried
He got
to take a shortcut.
obsessed.
yeah, but
Yeah.
Peter Cushing, that, him killing people is not going to break him down mentally at all.
No.
You know?
No, no. I
you
mean, the
guys
first one
notice-
was a prostitute. He could justify that. Really? Really? Just because she's a prostitute? Fine.
I couldn't understand some of the musical decisions in this. I mean, like, you're performing
yeah.
reconstructive surgery and they're playing smooth jazz, They got, like, the happiest, scary music
Yeah.
I've ever... Because,
Very
like, he's
upbeat
sneaking into
jazz in
their...
this that didn't-
He's sneaking into that Terry girl's room from the beach, and he's gonna stab her, because he's gonna use her pituitary gland, and and it's just like boom, doom, doo, 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 doo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, is he gonna start strutting into a room and do a little shimmy? I mean, it's just like it's the it's weird music. I mean, it's not as bad as the one in Death Laid an Egg, mind you, but
I think it's definitely like a sign of the times and that kind of
Yes.
film in general.
Definitely, yeah, because
Yeah.
that jazzy score reminds me a lot of early Corman productions too, like Little Shop of Horrors or Bucket of Blood, and where all that
Yeah, but
score
those are
is
also
like
parodies, though. I mean,
true.
those, you know, those are meant to be comedic. This is totally a straight, serious movie.
True. Well, I don't know. I maybe question that a little bit. There was, you got like the character, the blonde character at the beginning at the party. I thought she was hilarious
with this paint on her face that wouldn't leave anyone alone.
Yeah, they were whatever they were talking about, and she just starts asking him if he's ever been to Texas or whatever, So there's little moments like that kind of laced throughout the movie for comedic purposes, But
the thug who just like will do anything the guy will ask him to do.
Yes,
with like the sailors, the captain's hat.
Yeah. I want Tad to shave his beard into that
no
mustache,
like the Martin Van Buren.
Totally, I want to see it.
I'm not doing it for you.
Damn it!
You made me watch Death Laid an Egg, so you aren't getting anything out of me.
Crap. All right.
Did anyone notice when he's performing that first surgery and he's having that other gal help him, and he's asking for like these surgical instruments that are just sharp as hell, and she's just slamming this shit in his hand. I'm just like, Christ Almighty! I'm like,
yelled. I'm like, easy with the scalpel there, lady.
I was gonna say he could have took his fingers off, and you ain't gonna perform shit after that.
Well, he knows how to reattach them. Okay.
That's true. That just reminds me of like when I was a kid, and you would pretend to play like you're a surgeon or whatever. You just happen to find some dishwashing gloves under the sink, so you put them on and like, oh, I'm gonna play surgeon, and you have like butter knives and stuff laid out on the tray, and you'd be like, scalpel, and then I just remember slapping that knife into my hand just to get that sound effect of the metal hitting rubber. So maybe it was kind of the same mentality.
Sounds like you had a fetish.
You just now.
I think that's how I'm going to make sandwiches from now on. Put on rubber gloves. That's how I'm going to butter my bread.
Have Danielle pad your face, like the sweat off your face.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're sweating from all the mayonnaise.
So, yeah, we kind of barely touched on it a little bit, but I wouldn't mind getting a little bit more into when the cast of Star Wars shows up at the house. That one guy was just like Han Solo. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, is that what?
Oh, gotcha. Well, I mean, Grand Moff Tarkin is in this movie.
See, that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking George Lucas was highly inspired for Star Wars thanks to this movie.
With the laser.
Yeah.
Is that like the for the Death Star?
That's right. It's lightsabers.
It was a badass way to end it, though, with the lasers.
Lasers just going crazy, ripping into the walls and shit.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have like a couple of severed heads in this movie. I mean, it does get pretty gory for as a relatively, pretty gory for 68, don't you think? I mean,
yeah,
a couple of chopped off heads. I mean, all things considered.
Yeah.
I mean, but how gullible is Rick to, sit? I'm looking for his wife. Oh, just keep leaning over this cliff here where you
right.
moving.
Look closer.
But she's so slick about it. But then when she comes back, she just can't keep her poker face. I didn't understand that.
I think she was really losing it at that point. That like her brain was really deteriorating at that moment because. Like right before the laser thing, they cut to her and the acting choice on her at that moment where she gets wide-eyed and shaking her head around, just has crazy face. Like that was way over the top, but I think it was all like she's beyond the line of her mental states at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
True.
Pretty good little movie.
Yeah, and I did like I said it was very I said it was predictable, but I mean, I didn't really think that the hitchhiker was going to have her own scam.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
that caught
that
me off
was
guard.
kind of a cool little
Yeah.
twist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't call that at all.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool moment.
Yeah. This is also on YouTube. Another 1080p. Great
another
great
really
looking
good
version.
quality.
Beautifully shot. I mean, it's really gorgeous. Like, and especially, okay, here, I'll just tell a little stupid thing about myself. I love to collect Barbies. And my favorites are the mod era Barbies
You
that
and Mike.
wore that kind of, like the orange and the, like that, just that really bright colored stuff. And so I just really love the way that looks, and I love the way it looks on film. Like, it just, just the bright, like, contrasty colors and that type of thing.
Yeah. Oh, I just remembered that.
Yes, I collect Barbies. Okay,
Well,
judge me.
no, you're talking to the right crowd as far as collecting action
Yes,
figures.
I'm like, I have no
figures and
shame.
things.
I have no shame.
No, we all collect hard. What, Mike?
No, I just instantly just now remembered the very, very final moment of the movie.
Yeah.
Which again is like a time travel moment? What's going on there?
Yeah, that had the same kind of thing. Like, yeah, it goes back to the beginning of the party. Is it like...
Oh, right.
Is he in hell and he's just repeating? Yeah, I don't know.
Did he have was that the dream he woke from?
Right,
Yeah,
was that a
exactly.
whole dream sequence kind of thing? Or, yeah, I didn't get that at
God, I
all.
hope not. I hate movies that end like the
So basically, all three of them go together because the first one and the third one both have killing prostitutes, and then the second one and the third one have like time travel.
It's all part of my divine plan.
That's right. You planned all of this, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Of course. I just think they had a way to really end it strong with at the beach, or whatever. So like that was just their creative way to put some sort of ending on it. I never saw it as a time travel thing in any way.
Well, no, I was kidding about the time travel, but I mean, it's obvious. I interpret it as one of two things. Like the whole thing was a dream, and now he's in the reality, where like he's doomed to, like destined to repeat everything, or he's in hell and he's destined to repeat everything. I don't know. Or the movie's runtime ran a little short, so they just recycled footage from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, both those seem like cop-outs to me, man.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it just should have ended with that room burning and the laser going crazy. I thought that was just the perfect
and
ending.
them
right
all
there.
laying there dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's the price of all their sins, really. I mean, just...
Yep.
Well, except for the one guy, the one character who kind of showed up at the last minute.
The other doctor. Right?
The other doctor that was
one
going to
good
marry
guy.
her sister. Yeah. Like, that's kind of sucks for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Collateral damage in horror movies.
Yeah.
I guess. This might be a movie that'd be kind of... You could go... Especially with that laser scene, you could go really, really nasty with it if you did a remake of it.
Yeah.
Because just that moment when he is getting up and that laser spins around and hits him right in the eyes, and just my mental eye just was painting the most gross picture.
I just think about The Boys and his laser vision, and there's some nasty shit.
Oh yeah.
On that show from laser cutting, that was awesome. You got lucky that the two of the movies were good.
I'll be honest, I was nervous after I made my choices. I was a little nervous.
I hadn't heard of any of these.
All three of them,
I hadn't either.
All three of them, I made. When I was looking through films, I just sat there and watched trailers to all these different movies from 1968, and then doing research on which ones would be easily available to us. And it came down to these three, and just based on all three of their trailers, I was nervous going in. I didn't know. Like, Corruption had me obviously the most scared. And I was worried Devil's Right Out would be, kind of a snooze fest, and then like Death Lays an Egg, like I was
you were
pretty
most
much right
looking
on
forward to. Sick fucker.
Speaking of these titles, I mean, it's just like, okay, Death Laid an Egg makes sense, considering with the chickens and shit, and Devil Rides Out, and that makes total sense. Corruption.
Because it's corrupting her brain, I think, or something. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't.
It
Yeah.
falls flat. It's bland. It's
just the title itself is bland.
yeah. It's just like the other two titles make sense for the movies that we viewed. It's just like
Like it should have been corruption of something, or
Yes, I agree with that.
But the one word title was very popular back then.
It's popular now. I hate one-word titles. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. It's my least favorite. Doesn't mean I hate the movie. I'm just not a fan of one-word titles. It's kind of agreeing with Andy here. It's just generic.
Yeah.
This is coming from a guy who made a movie that has a one-word title.
Yep.
But yours was creative, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Deserved a much more creative title. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, so those are our movies. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll do some segments here on Attack of the Killer podcast. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
And we're back, and it's time now for everybody's fourth favorite segment on the show.
What?
I know, there's only 3. Shout-outs.
It's time for shout-outs! 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 Shout-outs!
Hey, everybody! Just asked, what your favorite horror films of the 1968, and here are your answers. On our Facebook group, the group edition, we had Chris Anderson says, any answer that isn't Night of the Living Dead is the wrong answer. That's pretty true.
Well, yeah.
It's pretty good.
If you're going absolute favorite, yes.
Yeah.
But you gotta sometimes you gotta skim off the top.
Sure. I think that's what happened to this. Then on our Facebook page, we got, I better skip that one because Mike told us the wrong year first. Okay. Oh, he says, Derek John says, Night of the Living Dead, of course. Never liked Rosemary's Baby. Always agreed with Justin on that one. Will be interesting to hear other people's favorites. Love the show. Thanks, Derek. And I can tell you, Mike had to step away for a second, but that's why we didn't do Rosemary's Babies, because Mike thinks it's boring and doesn't like it. So, which is too bad, because I just rewatched it and I fucking loved it. Anyway, that's just me. We got
Love grows where my rosemary goes.
That's right. We got Brian J. Godsill. He says, I'd have to go with Night of the Living Dead. All these years later, and people are still making zombie movies. That's true. He's right. Then we got, look, our top fan, because I guess Facebook does that now. Our top fan, Regina Daniel, says, hands down, Rosemary's Baby. Yes, Regina, you're right. That is the best, probably my favorite. The suspenseful build-up, the anxiety, including gaslighting, and all is essentially for the bad guy to win in the end. Classic satanic movies like this and Race with the Devil might not have been scary by a lot of people's standards, but I know for me, wherever you go, there they are, scared me, because you don't know how far their reach is. There's no safe haven. That's scarier than any jump scare or ghost in a closet. I agree. She's right.
Said.
Up next, we got Ray Chow. He says Rosemary's Baby. I had to Google it. I know some of us could just do the years like that. Some we have to look. Fog of Death. Hey, that's John. No, that's my. Shoot. Over on I got this. It's a. I'll cut that out. And we got Fog and Death. He says, Witchfinder General. I know not necessarily horror in the traditional sense, but what a great movie. Vincent Price at his most sinister, and a strong showing of what Michael Reeves could have been as a director had he lived.
Also known as The Conqueror Worm.
I don't think I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's decent. Yeah.
Oh,
Vincent Price, he plays the bad guy.
Whoa, I like that. Next up, we got Nick Leadham. He says, Rosemary's Baby is my favorite, but I also need to mention Kuroneko. Kuroneko. Great movie, he says. I can't even pronounce it, so I will try to look it up. Jason Zbornik says, Rosemary's Baby. Good choice, Jason. We got Brian Clark, our old pal Brian Clark. He says, Dracula has risen from the grave because you can't go wrong with Hammer. The Green Slime because Richard Jekyll and Antonio Margheriti and Toei Studios. And that awesome theme song, Margheriti and Toei Studio. Oh, I read that. The Brides of Blood, because the Blood Island series are some of the best exploitation movies of all time. And although Terror is a man, technically kicked it off, Brides is the one that really got the series cooking with loads of nudity and lurid gore, and John Ashley being the third tier Frankie Avalon of sleaze. I've not seen any of those, but I'm kind of feeling that Hammer kick. I need to watch those. And then lastly, I like that. On our Facebook page, we got Trevor McCahenney says, Night of the Living Dead. We didn't have anything on Instagram, but over on Twitter, we just had Customers Also Watched podcast at CAW Podcast. They said, since I'm sure most will say Night of the Living Dead or Rosemary's Baby, I'll go with The Astro Zombies.
Yes, that's the one I was going to say.
The movie is shit, but resulted in the greatest Misfits song ever, so it deserves credit for something. Awesome. And let's see, that's and if we got a voicemail, it would go here. But hey, thanks or not. But if you want to, you can always give us a call. Leave us a voicemail, your comments. You can call us at 415-952-6857 or 415-95-AOTKP. And that's shout-outs. All right, but it's not over yet. Still, everyone's actual favorite segment. It's time for Insane's Picks.
All right, so for Insane's Picks for this episode, I'm going to do a film from 1991. It's written and directed by J.R. Bookwalter, so I thought I'd go back to the Bookwalter well. What's that?
Oh, I just said Bookwalter because you were having trouble saying his name.
Yeah, that's typical me. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about Zombie Cop.
Yeah.
Which is written and directed by J.R. Bookwalter, also co-written by Matthew Jason Walsh, who has done a lot of writing for Bookwalter and also for Full Moon and stuff. Movies like Bloodletting, Killer Eye, Kingdom of the Vampire. Filmed in Akron, Ohio. The story is one night during a drug raid, Detective Robert Joshua Gill confronts a strange voodoo priest named Dr. Death. The priest/drug lord performs a ceremony on Gill, and after both gun each other down, Dr. Death and Detective Gill rise from their graves, and now Officer Gill is a zombie, although he never really acts like a zombie throughout the whole film. Dr. Death is also resurrected and has a new mission in mind to take over the world. The zombie cop enlists the aid of his old partner, Detective Stevens, to stop the mad priest. Now, there's no real zombie makeup in this movie. Like, when he comes back from the dead, they just kind of put pale face on him and a little black around the eyes and cheekbone. And then he kind of puts on his signature gear for the film. He puts on a regular police officer cop outfit, which he never wore at the beginning of the movie because he was a police detective. And then he wraps his face up in bandages like Darkman. So that's his look through the rest of the movie. So it's more of mummy cop, maybe you could say. The movie, it's not very long, so you can get through it pretty quick. But again, shot on video goodness. So if you like that stuff, definitely I would recommend checking it out. There's some cringeworthy moments in this film. Rather kind of racist moments. The co-writer Matthew Josh Walsh plays an Indian convenience store employee, wearing brownish makeup and has a towel wrapped around, just a regular bath towel wrapped around his head. Yeah.
Really tasteful.
Yeah, I know. And when he first popped on the screen, I'm like, oh God, no. And all I could think of is like, please don't have any dialogue. Please don't have any dialogue. And then he has dialogue, and I'm like, oh God. And then they get past the scene in the convenience store, and it's like, please don't ever come back to this character. Please don't ever come back to this character. And they do come back to that character later in the movie, and I'm just like, no. And then also it's a little cringy, a little, racy with Dr. Death's over-the-top Jamaican accent.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but the movie, all it is just one big chase fight scene as they continue to run into each other and fight back and forth, Dr. Death and the zombie cop. They shoot guns at each other, knowing full well it won't stop either of them. Although, like, Dr. Death must have, during his audition for this movie, must have shown, hey, I could do a really cool stunt where I fall backwards, and it is a really cool little stunt. But he does it like 20 times in the movie, so I think he got cast just because he could do that little stunt. But then it culminates into the final fight in the woods where the zombie cop finally defeats Dr. Death by pushing him down this slight hill, and then he gets impaled on a tree branch. So, but again, yeah, it's shot on video, and if you have any love for the shot on video stuff, I would always recommend check out Bookwalter's stuff. He either shoots like on video or 8mm or along those lines. And I always feel like his stuff, maybe not always in acting and story or writing, but production value always seems a step above a lot of the fare of like Cannibal Camp Out or Splatter Farm and stuff of that ilk. So definitely a bit more of a better technical director than some of those other guys. But it's got awesome bad dialogue in it, such as you can stick that badge right up your rear. There's a moment where part of Dr. Death's plan is to kidnap a bunch of grade school kids, and he picks up this one girl, kidnaps her, is kind of holding her under his arm, and she's kicking and trying to fight her way free, but never once screams from the moment she's picked up to the moment the zombie cop saves her. She never screams once. So that's Zombie Cop for you. It's a movie that even J.R. Bookwalter and Matthew Jason Walsh regrets ever making and regrets ever distributing. So, but I still think it's fun. You can find it on YouTube in entirety, so check it out.
You just picked shot on video because Becca was on, right?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Knew it.
Speaking of which, Becca, thanks for being on the show.
Oh my gosh.
Woo, problem.
You have definitely raised the bar a bit on this show. The guy's got to now step it up.
How's that?
Yeah.
Because I like Death Laid an Egg?
I think so, yes. That's 100% it. So remind our listeners where they can find you again.
Well, Well, I am on In the Mic of Madness. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. That's also where my spin-off show, SOBs Who Love SOV, is. Also on YouTube at Triple B Theater. And I have my own YouTube channel that, well, I've been a little busy, so I haven't really done a lot with it lately, but it's called The Not Quite Final Girls, where I profile basically the chicks who don't final girl it in horror movies. So I dress up like a lot of these chicks, and I tell the story of their actress and their character, and just have fun with it. Yeah.
Cool. Sounds very cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so thanks everybody out there for listening, and again, also special thanks to the attackers out there, those Patreon supporters of the show. And yeah, we will talk to you again on the next episode of Attack of the Killer Podcast.
Oh no, could this be the end of? Attack of the Killer